but the idea of being on a cruise just does not appeal to me at all. Mum, are you in the same boat as me?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another little chit chat with me and my mum. It's always a pleasure, and it's nice to see you, Mum. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm not bad because the sun is coming out after a wet, cold, and windy week. So I think another little heat wave is about to come, which I'm excited about, but slightly nervous about because, it gets a little bit too hot and then I don't sleep as well. So, as with everything, there are always pros and cons to everything. What about back home? Is the weather all right at the moment?
It's a bit miserable, really. It's rained a lot. It's rained a lot. It's typically English. One day it's really hot. One day it's really chilly. I think I had a hot water bottle, which is where it's like a bottle, not glass, obviously. It's sort of a rubber thing, and you fill it with boiling water, and you put it on your feet in the bed, and it just takes that chill off. Um, yeah, it's English summer, and we can have all the seasons in one day, apart from snow. We've not had snow.
Uh,
Enough.
I'm sure it will get sunny soon, hopefully. Touch wood, fingers crossed, the usual things I say quite a lot. I notice that when I'm recording podcasts and when I'm having classes, there will be certain words and phrases that I reuse over and over again. So I use awesome, awesome quite a lot. And then my fiance will sometimes be woken up to me saying, morning, morning.
Oh,
So, yeah, I think they are my catchphrases.
mm.
But anyway, let's kick off and get into our 8 questions. Once again, I've chosen 8 completely random conversation questions, and we're going to take it in turns to answer them. So, we'll begin with the first one, and Mum, I'll ask you straight away. It is, do you try to support local businesses, and how do you do it, if so?
Yes, we definitely do. I think it's very important because obviously they talk about the shops on the high street disappearing. So yes, we do. I like to buy the fresh bread, maybe the artisan bread. It's just tastier. There is actually a shop that sells local honey, and that's supposed to be very, very good if you have hay fever because the pollen is local. Yeah, who knew? And so Dad buys that often, and I think it helps. I don't know whether it's mind over matter, but yes, we do that. But also, it can be a little bit more expensive, which I like to pay for the good ingredients, but sometimes as well, if I haven't a lot of time, if I'm time poor, then I'll just go into a big shop, which is where I'll go to the supermarket and I'll just get everything and then just top up locally with little bits and pieces. Yes. So do you? Because obviously you're in a city, so is that slightly easier to shop local?
I mean, I'd like to say that I only go to a fruit and veg shop, to the local butchers, to the local fishmongers, to the local bakery. And I do in some scenarios because we have a market every Wednesday, which is just in the square around the corner. So we do go to the local market to buy bits and bobs, bits and pieces. But usually comfort and convenience comes first. And going to one place, going to the supermarket, being able to pick up everything you need for a whole week, it's just easier. And I think that's what most people want to do, and most people do, even though deep inside, deep down, we know we should support local businesses a lot more. And bread, for example, I'm a bit of a bread connoisseur. So I do like to have a very good baguette. And I notice in particular with fruit that if you buy fruit from the market, it is a lot tastier. But I think I'm a little bit awkward when it comes to asking people about different cuts of meat, different fish. And I get maybe a little bit of social anxiety when it comes to asking, like, the butcher. or the fishmonger and saying exactly what type of fish or meat I want when I can compare that to just seeing everything in a supermarket and not having to interact with anybody, picking it up, taking it to the till, and paying for it. So I would like to support local businesses more, and I do when it comes to coffee shops, bakeries, but I'm guilty of going to the supermarket a lot more than I go to the local market. I think it is what it is. We can't change it.
Yes, and think of it as a treat as well. If you go to a local baker's and get a nice cake, you can think you're treating yourself. So,
Quick,
and help business.
you see, killing two birds with one stone, as usual.
Yeah.
And before we move on to the next question, you used a few nice expressions. The first one was mind over matter. So if you say mind over matter, it's essentially saying that if you believe it, if you think it, it's more important. So you used it when speaking about hay fever. So if they say that consuming local honey will alleviate the symptoms of hay fever, maybe it's true, or maybe it's just mind over matter. If you think it's going to happen, then it actually will happen. And you said sometimes we are time poor, meaning our time is very, very limited. And lots of us do a weekly big shop. And that big shop is when you'll go to the supermarket, you'll pick up everything you need. And then in theory, you'll only go out to pick up some bits and bobs or bits and pieces if you're missing some sugar, flour, or whatever it might be. You are topping up what you have at home. Awesome. All right. Let's move on. Next one. And this one is all about films, about movies. So, Mum, are there any films that you can watch over and over again without getting bored of them?
Well, I used to. I think maybe when I had more time before I had children or when you were little, perhaps, I would watch films more as you grow older. And I do remember I liked About a Boy. That was very good. That was Hugh Grant. And the gist of that is he was a bit of a sort of a playboy. He lived off his father's money and he wanted to meet women but not get into a serious relationship. So he went to a sort of a single parents club hoping to meet women and he pretended he had a son and in a nutshell, he gets found out, but in the process of that, he actually does get really attached to one of the women's sons who is lacking a father figure. So it's quite heartwarming. So I watched that quite a few times, but to be honest, recently I'm more into series. I like to just sort of dip into them and I can watch one and then maybe a couple of days later, another episode. Um, I am guilty of falling asleep, so it's quite nice because usually they have a little bit of a recap at the beginning. So, but yes, yeah, I was having a declutter. I was getting rid of things, and I came across some of these old DVDs, and I did actually think I must watch those again. So, who knows? Maybe I'll get a chance to do that. What about you? I think you watch more films than me, don't you?
I mean, I watch a lot of Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime, Apple TV. So, all of these streaming platforms, to be honest, during the week when I finish my classes, I usually don't want to go out. I don't feel like going out. So all I want to do is move from my little teaching corner here over to the sofa, lie down, grab the remote, and put something on TV. Something usually kind of mind numbing. So I don't need to actually think that much. And
Yeah.
then every Sunday as well, as long as it's not like cracking the flags, in other words, as long as it's not really warm and sunny, I'll just watch back to back episodes or films. And I'm a little bit like you, where I say I watch probably more series than I do films because a film feels like more of an effort. Because if you think like, oh, it's 2 hours or oof, it's 2.5 hours, then I don't know if I'll be able to pay attention for long enough. Or I don't know if after half an hour, I might get a little bit bored and think like, it's not really my cup of tea. So There are films that I can watch over and over again, like Lord of the Rings, for example. I can always binge watch the entire trilogy of Lord of the Rings. And other than that, I rewatched a really good kind of horror slash suspense film
Oh,
2 weeks ago. And it is with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman called Seven, which is all about the seven deadly sins. And it's about, well, a crazy serial killer. And
mm,
it's probably not your kind of thing, Mum, but it is a great film. And I can probably rewatch it because you discover little intricacies, little details every time you do rewatch it. And this is what a lot of film buffs say when they are rewatching films. That's like, oh, every time you watch it, you discover new things, new details. So if I
mhm.
had to pick, I'd go Lord of the Rings. But there are quite a lot that I could happily rewatch, especially on a Sunday when I'm just vegging out on the sofa. And to veg out is just like, to be lazy and not really move. And going over other advanced words, Mum, you said that Hugh Grant in this film was a bit of a playboy, somebody who perhaps slept around. And in a nutshell is a way of saying, in summary. And in the end, this film turns out to be very heartwarming, a nice adjective, which is like something that when you're watching it, you might get emotional and think like, "Oh, that's sweet. That's lovely." All right, the third question. This one, I think we are going to see eye to eye on. I think we are going to be on the same page. And the question is, would you ever want to go on a cruise? And I have never been on a cruise. And honestly, I don't fancy it at all. I was about to say I couldn't think of anything worse, but maybe that's a little bit of an overstatement and I'm exaggerating a little bit. But the idea of being on a ship, on a huge boat, you're
Mm,
kind of trapped on board. And I can imagine lots of like organized fun of different dances, different events, different activities. When, especially if you're surrounded by the same people all of the time, I think my
mm,
social battery would run out. And you see some crazy cases of hantavirus on the cruise just a couple of months ago. Luckily, it seems like all of that turned out to be not as bad as we feared. But the idea of being on a cruise just does not appeal to me at all. Mum, are you in the same boat as me?
Yeah. I like the pun. Um, the joke, yes. Stick to the day job. I'm actually really frightened of flying. So you would think a cruise, it would just be like, wow, that was such good news. You can just get on a boat, you're not taking off or landing. But the short answer is, I never ever want to go on a cruise. It just doesn't appeal to me. I have friends and they go, but I think, like you say, you're sort of trapped with a lot of people who might be wonderful in small doses. I think your dad, he would be so bored. I mean, if there was maybe a climbing wall, that would just alleviate the boredom for a little while. But I think my type of holiday would not be to be on a boat and then just dock somewhere and rush around somewhere and then have to go back on the boat really quickly. I want to go somewhere where I can wander around the area. I can find a restaurant that's very authentic, very sort of family run, and it's more relaxing. And I want to see the real parts of places, not to just be on a ship and then just sort of dash on and off. So it's not for me. It might be wonderful. Some honestly, some friends they go every year and they think it's great that the dining, but even that I don't particularly want to dine somewhere that's huge. I just want something more intimate. So it's a no from me. I'm with you.
Yeah. You see, even whilst you were explaining that, I was thinking like, oh, What if you've got big waves? What if it gets a little bit choppy? And of course, the bigger the ship, the less you're going to feel all of these things. But sometimes in summer, when people go on cruises, well, you'll have a summer storm. And then I can
Oh,
imagine it just moving from side to side. I'd probably feel quite seasick. And then I don't know whether I'd be able to keep it down me. So it, the less I speak about this, probably the better. So let's move on to the next question. So this one is if we have any kind of emotional attachment to favorite items of clothing. So I'll start with my answer because I've got it exactly, exactly in mind. And it is a shirt that is very similar to the shirt that I'm wearing. So now in summer, I wear a lot of short sleeve shirts that can be quite baggy. So then, you don't get too hot in summer. They're quite casual, quite cozy and comfy. And there's one that I bought, which is the same color, but with like Aboriginal designs. And I bought it now, I want to say 8 years ago, but maybe it was less. I don't remember exactly when I went to Australia. But when I went to Australia, I remember going to one of these like nature reserves in the rainforest. It was around Daintree Rainforest. And I went in the souvenir shop. And usually I'm not the kind of guy who will pick up different souvenirs. They don't really appeal to me either. But I saw this kind of funky shirt with cool designs and different colors. And it was with the typical designs of the Aboriginal people from Australia. So I thought it was going to be the perfect souvenir. And it's so comfy. It's so thin as well. So it's perfect when it's really, really warm. So that's probably my favorite item of clothing, that particular shirt from Australia. Um, Mum, how about you?
well, you can't beat a pair of jeans, and that's my go-to because obviously, if I'm looking after my grandson, I spend time on the floor. But if I was to say my actual favorite thing, it's a dressing gown, which is basic robe. Usually it's toweling or it's very soft, like velour or something. So if I've been very, very busy all day and I get in and I want to relax, then quick bath or shower, pajamas on, slippers. I'm really sounding very old womanish, aren't I? But and then a dressing gown because it just feels cozy. And I just feel then that I'm sort of chilling. I'm winding down. So that's my go-to. But opposite to that, it's really quite strange because when I worked in a school, we had what we called a non-uniform day, and it was usually to raise money. So everybody paid a token amount, perhaps £1 each or something, and you could dress in whatever you wanted. Now, this particular theme was nightwear, sleepwear. So the whole office was in pajamas, dressing gowns, slippers. But honestly, I hated it. I did not feel comfortable at all. Talking to parents, it was just wrong. So there's always a time and a place. So at home, the dressing gown. Dressed down for work, non-uniform day, definitely not. It just felt weird all day. Yeah. I wanted to come home and put clothes on. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just
It was that weird.
yes. So anyway, that's
It,
me.
it's true that you do really like slippers as well, because whenever I'm home and we're going to my sister's place or anywhere else, you'll be like, Lewis, have you packed your slippers? And usually my response is like, it's not going to be that cold, is it? I'm wearing socks. It's not like I'm barefoot. But you will usually insist on putting slippers
Mm.
on whenever you go to my sister's house. And yeah, you clearly like slippers and a dressing gown.
Oh dear, that sounds terrible, actually.
But then you get dressed
Okay,
up for these podcasts.
I'm doing for a podcast.
Maybe that's what we could do.
Moving on swiftly.
Moving on swiftly, moving on swiftly. So the next question, this I believe is the fifth one. Maybe I'm losing count, but hey, that doesn't matter. And this one is, what professions do you think are overpaid and underpaid? maximum? What would you say?
Well, obviously, there's going to be the obvious one. I'll let you touch on the World Cup and footballs and how much they're paid. So I'll give that one to you. You know more about football. I'm thinking perhaps, so obviously, and I'm in agreement that they are overpaid. They should be well paid, but they're overpaid. But people, film stars, I, I, I can't get how somebody would act and they would pretend to save somebody's life and they would get millions of pounds for the role. And then there may be a surgeon in the UK or wherever that will actually perform life saving surgery and get a fraction of that. And I just think, how is that fair? And also, I think with childcare, because you're trying to raise the next generation. So if a child's at nursery, quite often the people there are on minimum or low wage or the living wage, they call it. And I just think that should be to attract people that as a career. And obviously, if it's not well paid, people can't always afford to do that. They may wish to do that, but so I think maybe upping the pay grade of something like that would be a good idea. But yes, over to you about the World Cup and footballers. I love football, honestly, and it brings people together. But yeah, such a lot of money.
I mean, it's true that footballers obviously earn far too much money. It doesn't make sense why they earn so much. Well, I take that back. It does make sense purely from the financial point of view for the number of people who watch the matches and the business behind it. So it's always kind of supply and demand, and it depends on how much money companies, broadcasters are making from the product, which is the World Cup, the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A. So obviously, you earn more money usually if you are at the top of your game, playing for the best teams in the best leagues as well, because that's what people tend to watch. So the more people watch it, well, the more you can monetize it. So I understand why it happens from a financial point of view, but I still disagree with it. I still think that all footballers should be forced to contribute a lot more to charity, for example. And to be honest, I think footballers are usually not to blame because they're just very good athletes who have done well. It's more their agents who are the ones trying to get them the best deal possible and maybe trying to keep a lot of the money that they are making. And it's the people above them that are the ones to blame. If we think about the people in power of FIFA, UEFA, etc., they seem to be the ones that are the greedy ones who are completely overpaid. It's true. It's true. I think most people agree with that because you look at a lot of footballers and many of them come from very humble working class backgrounds. And in these backgrounds, that's where people will maybe spend time training more and really suffering and trying to achieve their dreams of making it. So if we think about a famous English footballer, Marcus Rashford, who last season played for Barcelona, he still belongs to Manchester United, but he gives back so much to the community and he will go on different like campaigns in the public as well to try and get other people around different schools in the UK to have free school meals. So I think a lot of footballers, we give them a bad rap and we maybe criticize them because of the lucky situation they're in for earning a lot of money. But nowadays, at least in England, for example, most of the footballers playing in the World Cup, I'm like, he's a really nice guy. He's a nice
Yeah.
guy as well. So I'm giving the overall opinion of football. And yes, they are, of course, overpaid. And doctors should, in theory, be paid a lot more because what they do is so much more influential because they can save your life, they can prevent you from getting sick, they will save your loved one's life as well. And that really matters a lot more than having something to watch on the telly or something to watch in a stadium.
Yes.
But
And
unfortunately, that's not the way the world works.
mm. I agree, Lewis. There are some very, very nice people in football that do give back a lot. And is it Cristiano Ronaldo? He part is wonderful. He supports so many causes, and sometimes it's nice that there are probably a lot of people that do it without publicising it because they don't need all the sort of the press around it. So yes, I'm sure they're all very nice guys.
But we agree that doctors should still earn more. All right, cool. Now, next question. This one is: do you own any technology, any devices, any gadgets that are now obsolete? Off the top of my head, I'm thinking of like Walkman, the Walkman CDs where you could listen to music on headphones. I think they were one of the first ones to come out. Let me think about more, but Mum, do you have any ideas off the top of your head?
Well, I think our first piece of technology really was a mobile phone. It was a Nokia and it was like this big. It was heavy. We actually nicknamed it the brick. And we shared it around. It's like, oh, you're taking the brick. So we would go out. You could have flung it, you could have thrown it across a room and it would have been fine. But all it really did was make calls. But yes, the only thing I can think of is that as you were growing up, you and your sister, I had a camcorder, which was kind of this big, and you'd look through a lens and press a button. I would record you growing up and such wonderful things. And it's just so nice to look back on. But unfortunately, I don't have a means of playing it now because they were just all these funny little tapes. So what I need to do is to take all these, like a box of these tapes, and see if I can get them all put onto a CD or a memory stick, just so that we have it. Because I've once when I think you were like 5 or 6 in a school play or things, and you were pretending to be a ringmaster, and your grandma had made you a little jacket, and
Uh-huh.
oh, it was just so lovely to watch, and I've not been able to watch it, so that's definitely something which I need to get on top of, and sort that out. But yeah, that's that's the main thing, really.
Maybe that could be what we do for Christmas or something similar. We rewatch all of these old videos that you recorded when I was a little baby, when I was dressing up and playing, because it's always nice for everybody to relive this and reminisce about it. So, hey, maybe for Christmas.
Yes, and I think it was only because I was having a declutter, I was tidying out, that I came across them. So I'm just so pleased that, we haven't lost them. But as I say, they just need transferring.
And reminiscing at the moment, thinking about being a child and a teenager, I remember in like our old cars that you'd have obviously a different like stereo player, you'd
Mm.
have a CD player as well. And nowadays, you don't have that in any new cars. You've
No.
just got a screen and you've just got some kind of cable, a wire to connect, and that's it. We don't need any of this stuff. It's become obsolete, as the question said.
Mm.
I wonder what the next innovation will be that will make many different things obsolete. Only time will tell. We will see. Now, you've used this verb a couple of times, and I haven't explained that many expressions during this chit chat, but one which you used was declutter. So you were having a declutter. You were decluttering the flat, which is kind of when you clear out things that have been stored away for a while. You're getting rid of things that we don't really need that are taking up a lot of space. You are decluttering. And another verb you used just then was to fling. So you could just throw it, to fling it, and I think you used it in the past. So I flung it. So it is irregular. We don't say flinged, but we say fling, flung, flung. I flung it in the back. Now, let's keep going. And this next question, I think I already know your answer because usually this is the person that you speak to on the phone. Maybe not every day, but most days I think you do. So, who did you last talk to on the phone, Mum?
Your auntie, my sister. Yes, we speak a lot. I mean, we are selling grandma's house at the moment, so obviously there's that to do. But we just like to keep in touch, and I would prefer to speak to somebody, because I think sometimes if you send a message or you send a text, then people can interpret it in different ways. Where if it's face to face, it might be on the phone or it might be FaceTime. And it's just then you can get your point across better. I just think sometimes it can seem a bit brief when you just do a quick text message. Or a bugbear of mine is sometimes might text your dad if he's out, and he'll reply with like a thumbs up. I'm just like, just ring, or just, I don't know. So I tend to ring. There's just one little sad bit is because obviously we lost grandma last year, and when I used to go away for a few days, the first thing I would do, obviously to make sure she was okay, but to tell her all about it, would be to get in, and before I even unpacked, I would be like, "Mom, we're back. We had a lovely time." And I just so miss that. Even now, it's strange that I can't ring her. But yeah, so it's always probably going to be family. Um, yeah, yeah. I just like to keep in touch.
Mm. No, no, it's perfect. Of course, you always have some people who are really into phone calls, other people who'll leave like voice notes as well. Then you have people who'll just send text messages. Usually, I'd say I am the latter. So I would usually send a message rather than ringing someone up or leaving a voice note. But some friends prefer to call. So then I think the last person I spoke to on the phone was my neighbor downstairs when we were wondering which bar to go to watch a World Cup match.
Yes.
And I think the conversation probably lasted like 10 seconds, where it was like, "Where are you?" And then I'd say the name of the place. And
Mm.
then it'd say, "Okay, I'll be there in a sec." So straight to the point, no messing around. Excellent.
Uh, Sometimes
Okay.
sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say sometimes actually we were having a walk, and Dad sort of said, Ruth said, "Oh, I think we'll just call in on these friends." And I was just like, "It's a Sunday afternoon. They might have company. They might have other people around." I said, "Just send them a text first, because then you're warning them, and they can have that opportunity, to say no. And sometimes it's less awkward." Because if you get a text, I had somebody ring up and ask me to do something as a favor, and I think if they'd have texted me, I could have maybe thought of an excuse. But because they rang and put me on the spot, I was just like, "Yes, yes, I'll do that." And then I'm thinking, "Oh, when do I have time to do that?" So, yeah, sometimes a text is easier and it gives people a get out. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, no,
Back to
no.
you.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Feel free to butt in whenever you want. Feel free to interrupt whenever you want. And let me go over some of these phrases. So, lots of phrasal verbs here. So, we mentioned looking back on the past, which was kind of reminiscing, remembering. And if you're walking past someone's house, as you mentioned, you can call in on them, which is maybe to knock on their door, say hello, have a little chat, and see if there's any news. And you also said that these people might have people round. So you can have people round or have people over when you're hosting different people. And they put you on the spot, or somebody can put you on the spot. And this is essentially what I am doing with my mum when we're recording this podcast sometimes. So if I will ask her a follow up question that she wasn't aware of, then I'm putting her on the spot, which is in a moment that you're not prepared for, where you're kind of like a little bit under pressure. You are on the spot. But anyway, let's finish off with the final question. And it is one which is quite futuristic. So, um, would you like a car that drives itself? In the UK, I'm not sure if this invention slash innovation has actually arrived yet, but I know for a fact that in certain cities in the United States, they already have self-driving vehicles and self-driving taxis in particular, which for me is mind-blowing. And I think it'd be a little bit creepy to be in the back of a car and not have anybody to speak to, or just to say like, "Oh, excuse me, I'll get
Mm.
out here. So I'm not sure. I can think of a lot of pros as well, a lot of advantages, because if you're a busy person, you can get your laptop, you can start working whilst being transported wherever you need to go. So, I'm not sure if I'm ready for this innovation just yet, but once it is proven to be safe, I reckon I'd be open to it. I reckon so. Mum, how would you feel about having a self driving vehicle?
Well, I'm quite a nervous passenger, and I think I see danger maybe before it happens. And so I think if I was on a motorway, I don't know whether I could handle not having any input, not having any control over it. When cars are going so fast, I'd just be worried that, if a car brakes, will this, I don't know, will the car sense that? Will it slow down in time? Or if we were on a winding road going round, would it be able to navigate it safely? But on the plus side, I am absolutely hopeless at parallel parking. When you've got to go past a line of cars and then you have to sort of gauge and sort of weigh up whether you can actually fit in that little spot. And I usually just drive on. But if I had a button and then it could reverse in and navigate it, that sounds perfect to me. So maybe for because I just think to help my spatial awareness, to help me know how much there is either side. So reversing in or parallel parking, that would be a game changer. I would love that, but for a, so I'm very enthusiastic. You can tell that I can remember when I was at school and somebody said, "Would you like to drive the minibus?" And I was just like, "Well, I can drive it, but I would need such a huge parking space." I'm just like, no, thank you. So yes, if I could have something to park a car, if I can drive in or there's lots of room, I'm fine. But for tight spaces, yes, please.
I mean, I kind of asked an open question just a couple of questions ago when speaking about obsolete technology. And maybe this is the next thing that will become obsolete. Maybe steering wheels won't be needed anymore. Like,
Mm,
even nowadays, I think it's more and more common to have automatic cars. So then nobody needs to worry about clutch control,
mm,
changing gears. So that's little by little becoming a little bit obsolete. And
mm.
perhaps normal cars will become obsolete as well. So, well, you're going to have to prepare yourself. But no, let's see, let's see. Excellent. Well, there we had our 8 questions. Let me now go over some of these words and phrases, in particular that we went over at the beginning. So, the expression mind over matter is kind of highlighting how powerful our mind is. So, if you believe something is going to happen, well, mind over matter. It probably will happen. Mum talked about being time poor, which is when you have limited time. And a big shop is when you go to the supermarket and buy lots and lots of different things. Then, if you have to go to maybe a corner shop, you might need to top up on a few little things, buy some bits and bobs, some bits and pieces. A playboy is somebody who will sleep around and go on a lot of different dates. And in a nutshell means, in summary, a heartwarming story is one that makes your heart feel, just nice and warm and puts a smile on your face. Maybe even brings you to tears. Who knows? And to declutter is to get rid of old things that are taking up a lot of space. And a pun is a play on words, a little joke. When speaking about cruise ships, I said that me and my mum, we were in the same boat. Huh? 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 Dum dum. And then after that, to fling is to throw kind of carelessly and quite far. You just fling it. You just throw it quite carelessly. Look back on is to speak about or think about the past. If you call in on someone, maybe you knock on their door and, see how things are going. And if you have people around or you have people over, you invite them to your house for a period of time. And if you put someone on the spot or you are on the spot, it means Or in a moment of tension, maybe, of a little bit of pressure that you perhaps weren't prepared for. So that is when someone puts you on the spot or you are on the spot. So, that is the recap of the vocabulary. And a final question, Mum, any plans for the rest of the day? Because we're recording this at my time of, 11 o'clock. So, what are you up to for the rest of the day?
Well, actually meeting some friends later, so we're having a catch up. It's people that I've known many years, and we just like to sort of go out and talk about our families and have something to eat. It's during the afternoon, so I won't be on wine or anything. Sometimes we go with the same friends, and we go out in an evening, and then obviously you might have a glass of wine. But we decided we'd do it this afternoon, so yes, so hopefully. It'll be nice. Yes, it's always good to keep in touch.
Excellent. And me, on the other hand, well, now I'm going to edit this video. I'm going to schedule this video podcast. Then I'm going to teach all evening. And that's a reminder, as always, if anybody would like to join my classes, then I'll leave a link in the video description. And you can also check out my application as well. So thank you, Mum, for being here once again. It's always a pleasure. Lots of love. And thank you, everybody, for watching or listening. And we'll see you again very soon. Bye.
Bye.